When you were a child, summers felt endless. A single afternoon could stretch into what felt like a lifetime. 3 months of summer vacation was an eternity, long enough to feel like a completely different world from the school year. Now, entire years disappear without warning. You blink, and it's December. You look up, and you're 5 years older. You wonder where the time went, but you can't quite remember. It's not because time is moving faster. The clock ticks at the same pace it always has. It's because your brain is recording less of it, and what isn't recorded doesn't exist in your memory, which means, in a very real sense, it never happened at all. Your brain doesn't measure time in minutes. It measures it in memories. When your days are full of new experiences, time feels slow. This is why a week-long vacation in a foreign country can feel longer than a month at home. You're encountering new sights, new people, new tastes, new challenges. Your brain is actively engaged, encoding each experience with detail and attention. But when your days repeat, time collapses. When Monday looks like Tuesday looks like Wednesday, your brain doesn't bother storing each day separately. Why would it? There's nothing unique to preserve. As you age, novelty decreases. Routines increase. You've already had your first day of school, your first kiss, your first time driving. You've settled into patterns. You know your commute. You know your job. You know what you like for breakfast and which side of the bed you sleep on. And routine doesn't get stored with detail. Your brain is efficient. It doesn't waste energy recording information it's already captured 1,000 times before. This is called encoding efficiency, and it's a feature, not a bug. Your brain is designed to filter out redundancy, so it can focus on what matters. The problem is that this efficiency comes with a cost, the feeling that life is speeding up. Because when you look back on the past year and find only a handful of distinct memories, it feels like barely any time passed at all. Think about it. You can probably remember your first day at a new job in vivid detail. The nervous energy, the faces you met, the specific things people said. But can you remember last Tuesday? Or the Tuesday before that? Probably not. They've blurred into a single representative memory. A typical Tuesday. Your first, job, relationship, trip abroad, apartment, major failure, moment of real independence. These moments stretch time because your brain records them in high resolution. When something is new, your attention sharpens. Your senses heighten. You notice details you'd normally overlook. You're present in a way that routine doesn't require. Psychologists call this the reminiscence bump, the phenomenon where people in their later years have disproportionately more memories from their teens and 20s than from any other period of life. It's not because those years were objectively more important. It's because they were dense with firsts. First love feels like it lasts forever, even if it only lasts months, because every moment is being encoded as significant. Your brain doesn't know which details will matter, so it saves everything. The way they laughed, the song that was playing, the specific intersection where you first held hands. But repetition tells your brain, this isn't important. Save energy. So it compresses. Your 100th commute to work doesn't get stored the way your first one did. Your 50th date night at the same restaurant doesn't create the same memory density as the first. Your brain assumes these experiences are fungible, interchangeable, so it keeps one template and discards the rest. This is why people often say their lives changed after having children, or moving to a new city, or starting a completely different career. Not just because these experiences are meaningful, but because they reintroduce novelty. Suddenly, your brain is recording again. Days feel distinct. Time stretches. Looking back, time feels fast, because your brain has fewer bookmarks. Imagine trying to navigate a book with only 3 sticky notes in 300 pages, versus a book with a sticky note every 10 pages. The second book feels longer, richer, more substantial, not because it has more pages, but because it has more points of reference. That's what's happening with your memory. A year with only a handful of distinct experiences compresses into what feels like a few weeks. A decade with the same routine compresses into what feels like a single chapter. That's why weeks feel long when you're bored, but years feel short in hindsight. When you're in the moment, bored, waiting, doing nothing, time drags. Your attention is on the clock. Every minute is noticed because you are waiting for it to end. But boredom doesn't create lasting memories. So when you look back on that period later, it vanishes. You don't remember the hours you spent scrolling, the evenings you spent watching forgettable TV, the weekends that blurred together. All that time existed, but your brain didn't bookmark it, so it's gone. This creates a strange paradox. The life that feels easiest to live in the moment, comfortable, predictable, free of stress or challenge, is the life that disappears the fastest in memory. Conversely, challenging periods, times when you were learning something difficult, navigating uncertainty, or going through hardship, often feel slow while you're living them, but remarkably vivid when you look back. That's because your brain was engaged. It was recording. There's also a proportional aspect to this. When you're 10 years old, 1 year represents 10% of your entire life. It's a massive chunk of your existence. But when you're 50, 1 year is only 2% of your life. Proportionally, it's smaller. This is sometimes called the proportional theory of time perception, though memory encoding plays a much larger role. The speed of time creates a quiet grief, not because life is shorter, but because it feels less distinct. Days blur. You can't remember what you did last weekend. Months merge. January feels indistinguishable from March. Years vanish. You realize you've been at the same job for 7 years, but you can only recall a handful of moments from it. There's something deeply unsettling about this. It's not the fear of death exactly. It's the fear of life disappearing while you're still living it. The fear that you'll reach the end and realize you weren't fully present for most of it, that you sleepwalked through years, decades even, because nothing felt urgent or important enough to wake you up. People describe this feeling in different ways. Life is passing me by. I feel like I'm on autopilot. Where did the time go? It's a background hum of loss that many people carry, but few know how to name. And it's compounded by the fact that modern life is designed for efficiency and routine. We optimize our schedules. We automate our decisions. We create systems that minimize friction. All of this makes daily life easier, but it also makes it forgettable. You wake up at the same time, drink the same coffee, take the same route, do the same work, eat the same meals, watch the same shows, go to bed at the same time. Repeat, repeat, repeat. It's not that any individual day is bad. Most of them are fine, comfortable even. But comfort doesn't create memory, and without memory, time evaporates. This is why people often report feeling most alive during disruptions, travel, crises, major life changes. Not because these experiences are pleasant, they often aren't, but because they force you to pay attention. They break the loop. They create contrast. You can't slow clocks, but you can slow perception. Novelty, presence, discomfort, learning. These stretch time again. Not because they literally change how seconds pass, but because they change how your brain records experience. And since your perception of time is based on memory, changing what you remember changes how long life feels. Novelty means breaking patterns. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to quit your job or move to another country, though those would certainly work. Small novelties matter too. Take a different route home. Try a new hobby. Say yes to an invitation you'd normally decline. Eat somewhere you've never been. The goal is to disrupt the autopilot. Presence means paying attention to what's actually happening instead of thinking about what's next or what's behind you. This is where mindfulness practices become useful, not as spiritual exercises, but as practical tools for slowing perceived time. When you're fully engaged with the present moment, your brain encodes more detail. A 10-minute walk, where you're truly noticing your surroundings, will be remembered more vividly than an hour spent lost in thought. Discomfort sounds unappealing, but it's one of the most effective time stretchers. When you're uncomfortable, physically, emotionally, intellectually, you're paying attention. Your brain is alert. You're not on autopilot. This doesn't mean seeking out suffering, but it does mean not always choosing the path of least resistance. Do something that challenges you. Have a difficult conversation. Try something you're not good at yet. Learning forces your brain into encoding mode. When you're acquiring a new skill, everything is effortful and detailed. You remember the early stages of learning in high resolution because your brain is working hard. This is why your first month learning guitar feels longer than your 10th year of playing the same songs. The key insight is this: you don't need to fill every day with extreme experiences. You just need to break the sameness. You need to give your brain reasons to pay attention. Small variations compound over time. Time didn't speed up. Your brain just stopped paying attention. And attention is what makes life feel long. The good news is that this is reversible. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to notice it, to record it, to create enough variation that your brain has something to hold on to. Because in the end, the length of your life isn't measured in years. It's measured in moments you actually remember. And those moments don't happen by accident. They happen when you choose to be present for them. So the question isn't how to stop time. It's how to make sure you're actually there when it passes.